Good evening. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. We'd like to say Jazakallah to you, the viewer, for staying with us here on Hilaal TV, DSTV channel 347. On Friday, Yahya Sinwar was martyred as he stood before a Israeli drone after his home and the rest of the area within southern Gaza was bombed to a ruin. He threw a stick at the drone, a sign of his resistance, a sign of what it is that the Palestinian cause stands for now. Over 1 year into the genocide, the Israeli occupation force has now killed two senior Hamas leaders, Ismail Haniyeh and now Yahya Sinwar. What is the legacy of Yahya Sinwar as a resistance fighter? What is it that Palestinians remember of him? What is it that he now reflects amongst the global South? The West, of course, sees him as this mastermind of October the 7th, and to them, it's a classic cause of good riddance. But what is the global South, especially the Arab world, and their remembrance of him? Joining me now, I'd like to welcome the former Palestinian ambassador to South Africa, Salman Al-Herfi. Salman, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, South Africa. Good afternoon, the people of South Africa. Good afternoon for all brothers and sisters in South Africa.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Salman, what is your legacy when you look at Yahya Sinwar? What is it that you can take of Yahya Sinwar and say there's a legacy attached to this gentleman?
You know, Yahya Sinwar is one of our leaders, one of the Palestinian leaders whom they sacrificed their life for the struggle of the Palestinian people. Started from old generation, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, Yasser Arafat, Rantisi, as well as all the martyred George Habash, as well as many, many other Palestinian leaders, Abu Ali Mustafa, those who are delivered their life and their all their struggle for Palestine. And Yahya Sinwar, he is one of our leaders that he fall on during the battle. His fall while he's fighting, and he was, in spite of all those rumors or those allegations of Mr. Netanyahu that he is in the tunnels and he is surrounded by the hostages or by the Israeli prisoner of war, or that he is among the civilian, it is wrong. Yahya Sinwar, he fallen in the battle while he is fighting his enemies. It's not only that he thrown his stick to the drone, but he's using his gun and he using his grenade. He using all what he have to defend our people, to defend himself, to defend his comrades. And he is full of freedom fighters, and he have the legacy of all the martyrs of Palestine.
Salman, he was called the Lion of Gaza, and when you listen to him speaking, it was one of resistance, it was one of defiance, but it was one where he said, we will take the occupation, we will take the fight to the occupation head on. That's the perfect way to sum up Yahya, isn't it?
You know, Yahya, he is one of the leaders. He is the president of the political bureau of Hamas. He is the leader of Hamas, which is one of the tissue of the Palestinian people, political people, tissue of the people of Palestine, as well as his freedom fighters among other movements, and which is leading the armed struggle against Israel in Gaza, and which is to defending our people in front of this genocide war waged by Israel against our civilian against our civilian people, in particular women children. Those are the killer of the children, led by Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant, whom they are the criminal of war and they are wanted by the ICG to be drawn to the criminal court of justice.
Salman, there's one thing particular I want to look at Yahya when obviously his martyrdom had happened. The fact that he was there willing to take on the Israeli occupation forces, that dispels any myth that, like you mentioned, he was hiding in the tunnels, he was amongst civilian population, he was amongst the hostages that have been taken. That just shows that over the last year, all these myths that have been portrayed by Israel, the world is starting to wake up to it. Is that one way of looking at it, given how he had been martyred and the fact that he was willing to take on this drone, which cost millions and millions of US dollars?
The question is not hiding. Yahya Sinwar is leading. He's leading the resistance in Gaza. A whole year Israel was unable to find him, but because he was among his people and he is among his freedom fighters, and he is fighting the enemy the whole year. And even when they didn't know when they assassinating him, or when they are bombarding the building where he is, they didn't know that he was Yahya Sinwar. It was when they are looking by the drones, they recognize his face looking like Yahya Sinwar. And this is why they are bombarding the whole building, and they discover later on, after they are taking him to the hospital, and they deciding to do the DNA and his blood, and that they find him that he is Yahya Sinwar. So that they are unable to find him. He wasn't in a tunnel. He was among his people. He was fighting with his army, his colleague, his freedom fighters, and he is leading in the forefront of the freedom fighters struggle.
Salman, one final question before I let you go. Hamas has more leaders, don't they? They've got more leaders because they are built on resistance. They are built on the fact that this occupation is happening, and that Hamas would never die because of the death of not just Ismail Haniyeh, the martyrdom, I beg your pardon, of Ismail Haniyeh, and now Yahya Sinwar. The leadership is there. And it's a clear case that they're going to take the fight to Israel no matter what.
I will tell you something. Since more than 100 years, the Palestinian people, and in particular the leadership of the Palestinian people, they sacrifice their life in defending in the forefront their people. And the struggle is continuing. And not the death or the martyrs of Mr. Yahya Sinwar going to stop the struggle of the Palestinian people. The only thing that stops the struggle of the Palestinian people is the end of the occupation, end of genocide, the ceasefire, and the establishment of the Palestinian independent state with Jerusalem as capital.
Salman, shukran so much for joining us. Much appreciated. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
That's Salman Al-Herfi, the former Palestine ambassador to South Africa. Now, after the break, any talks of a potential ceasefire, which we saw at the United Nations General Assembly 3 times, resolution passed for it to happen, and any negotiating that was happening during this time. Well, who's going to negotiate now for Hamas? Do they trust the mediators? Do they trust Israel? Especially Israel now, after what has happened with the murders of first Ismail Haniyeh and now Yahya Sinwar. What happens? Is Israel planning something bigger? After the break, I talked to Munna Tareh, who is a Middle Eastern political analyst from the Columbia University. She'll be talking to me about this after the break.